I am Manan. You can call me Manan. I am 25 years old, and right after I got out of college, I wanted to do something that was good for the world while also making money. So I decided I'll get into solar. And now I'm doing both. I'm trying to save the world and also trying to make money. So I will, throughout the entire presentation, I'm going to show you how a career in solar or just renewables is a very meaningful career to be in, and how you can basically be a real life superhero by being in an industry of this sort. And at the same time, I'm also going to show you how being in this industry is how renewable energy is going to help us achieve net zero and carbon neutrality. Now, we want this discussion to be a very interactive discussion. So all throughout this entire presentation or like class, so to say, I will ask a bunch of questions and I will ask a bunch of participation in terms of polls. So please do participate and uh, educate the audience as well, because I have made the presentation, but you will be surprised to know that even I don't know everything about the presentation. But I know that you are much more educated than me when it comes to a lot of the things that I'm going to touch upon. So I will need your help in order to, brush up my knowledge on those aspects. So to begin with, how many of you, Sneha ma'am, if you can, create a poll on.
Sir, I think your audio is not being properly heard by the participants.
Ma'am, it is audible, ma'am. Sir, voice is audible.
And over here too, it is audible.
Okay. Great. Should I continue then? Should I continue?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, great. So Sneha, I will actually ask you to, I'll direct message you a few questions with some options from time to time so that you can create polls for everyone. Anyway, so to begin with, this entire session is on how renewable energy is going to help us reach net zero and carbon neutrality. Now, before we get into how renewable energy is going to help for carbon neutrality, it is very important to know like how important carbon is for us. What is carbon and how important it is for us in the atmosphere? Now, you must have all heard of the greenhouse effect, right? Now, again, as I said, like you are much more experienced than I am in this aspect. So can somebody raise their hands and maybe somebody can explain what greenhouse effect is? Okay, Sudiksha. Sudiksha, can you please explain greenhouse effect to everyone?
So when the amount of greenhouse gases present in the atmosphere is increased slowly by some extent, then the temperature of the atmosphere raises by a certain extent, and that is called the greenhouse effect.
Sure. I think even Ishan wants to add something.
It happens when by many methods like burning of fossil fuels. There are a lot of greenhouse gases excess.
Sure. So I'll explain a little bit more from the point of view of physics. It is that when the sun rays come from the sun, what happens is that it comes in a particular wavelength. Now, those wavelength is basically when it comes from the sun to the earth, it strikes the earth and it gets reflected back. Now, when it gets reflected back from when it touches the earth, it is important that it gets stored in the in our Earth so that it can keep our Earth in a very in an ideal temperature. Now, when is this a problem? That like carbon is very important for the sake of animals and humans to thrive on this earth in order to keep the temperature at a good amount. But as we know, excess of anything is bad. So whenever there is excess carbon in the atmosphere, that increases the temperature more than we need it to be. And that is what the issue is in terms of in terms of excess carbon in the atmosphere. But again, somebody tell me why methane is worse? Do you know what methane is? Anyone, please raise your hand and let me. Sudiksha again has raised her hand. Sudiksha, please go ahead.
So methane is also contains a certain amount of hydrogen in it along with carbon. So is that why?
Sure. So basically what happens with methane is that it is 25 times more difficult to destroy once it is in the atmosphere. So it takes 25 times more time for the methane to go out of the atmosphere, and it creates more greenhouse effect than carbon dioxide does. But for the sake of this discussion, we will concentrate on how carbon neutrality can be achieved. Now, again, can anyone tell me what carbon neutrality is, or what is net zero? Would love participation from everyone else apart from Ishan and Sudiksha also. Okay. And Ishan, please raise your hand on Zoom. I can. There's a feature on Zoom through which you can raise your hand. Anyway, Miss Aditya, can you please explain, Aditya Kumar?
Yes, sir. So carbon neutrality is a state of net zero carbon dioxide emissions. This is achieved by the balancing emission of carbon dioxide.
Yes, that's right. So basically, it does not mean not emit carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, but it only means that we will reduce the amount of carbon dioxide as much as we are emitting to reach the net zero state. Now, so what is very important in reaching the net zero state is that number one, we lower the emissions, and number two, we remove the emissions that already exists in the atmosphere. So because so many factories, so many cars emit so much carbon dioxide, it stays in the atmosphere. Now, because in hundreds of years we have emitted so much of carbon dioxide, it is now important that if we have to save our humanity, save our planet, we also take out all the carbon dioxide that has already been emitted by us, and at the same time reduce the amount of carbon dioxide there is. So that is what net zero carbon neutrality is. We don't necessarily say that we will stop emitting carbon dioxide, but we just say that we will take out as much as we put in. If somebody now can explain what fossil fuels are. Anyone else who has not participated? Ananya.
Hello, sir. Fossil fuel is a hydrocarbon containing material which we get from the remains of the dead plants and animals, and also can be extract from burning many things like to release energy, and also that's
Right.
possible.
Sure. Abhijit, how do fossil fuels come into being?
Yes, sir.
How do fossil fuels get formed?
Sir, fossil fuels are formed by the underground remains of dead plants and animal, which can be extracted by the humans burn for
Right.
release the energy of use. Is
Exactly. So when decaying animals and plants and waste is stored under pressure on in the ground for a very long amount of time, that is when these fuels are formed for thousands of years. And because all of us, so 18% of humans are also carbon. What happens is that when you the fuel that is created by these decaying organisms is put to, like, when we burn this fuel, what happens is that we emit carbon back into the atmosphere, which has been suppressed in all these years to create the fuel. That is why these fossil fuels are emitting so much carbon dioxide. And then we talk about the main sources. These fossil fuels are non-renewable sources which emit carbon dioxide, and then we have the renewable energy sources which do not emit carbon dioxide. And so three main forms of the four main types of renewable sources are solar, geothermal, wind, and hydropower. Now, I'll just do a quick poll. Um, Sneha, if you can just release a poll, which,
How do you do that?
oh, okay, there is a
And
poll option.
you can do that. Like we have shared you with the co-host, right? So I think you can do the poll one.
Let me try.
Okay, sir.
Or we can just do it on chat, I think.
I think you can ask a question or do the thing in the form of poll in the chat option.
Sure, I'll do it on the chat.
Great for the students also.
पता है तू
Please press 1, 2, 3, or 4. I have posted a question on chat.
पता है तू
Great. Just wait for 2 seconds. So everyone knows about solar. That is great. I'll just tell you what the other forms of so solar is basically, it harvests, you put up solar panels, which is made up of silicon, and sorry. Yes. So the sun's energy is harvested in terms of solar panels, and then that gets converted into electricity that can be used. So over here, we are harvesting the energy of the sun in order to create electricity. Nobody has heard of geothermal energy. So I'll quickly explain what geothermal is. So you know how, so what happens in a geothermal power plant is that hot water goes from the underground wells, and then it gets converted into steam. The steam then turns the turbine that generates electricity through the generator, and that is sent for usage. Now that same hot water is then used in a cooling tower to cool up the water, and the same process happens over and over again to produce the electricity. The third is basically wind. Can you please all mute? Please mute your mics. Okay, thanks. So the third is wind energy, where we set up wind power plants in different parts of the coastal areas where the wind is very strong, and that turns the turbines to create electricity. And the fourth is hydropower, where what we do is we put up a hydropower plant or a dam in a flowing river stream, or even in basically a river stream, and then that turns the turbines to create electricity. Now, as you can tell, since these are all using natural sources of electricity, these are renewable forms and does not emit carbon dioxide. So this is how renewable energy sources are basically going to this is how renewable energy sources are going to decrease the amount of carbon that we emit in the atmosphere, because this replaces carbon dioxide. That is one of the ways. So there are two things that we need to do in order to reach net zero. Number one is lower our emissions, and number two is remove the emissions. So we just discussed about how renewable energy can lower our emissions. We will now discuss upon how we can remove emissions now. There are the most simple form of removing carbon from the atmosphere is planting more trees and having more forests and having more farms. That is the easiest way of reducing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. The reason is obvious. We know that trees are the organisms that basically, not organisms, but like trees are the trees are the only trees are the only living organisms that are taking in the carbon dioxide and releasing oxygen. So which is why the fact that they take in the carbon dioxide is the only way we can remove more and more carbon from the atmosphere. Now, what is much more interesting is that these new machines which are getting made, which are called carbon capture technologies. One of them is actually made put in a picture over here. Now, what carbon capture technologies they do is they take the carbon from the atmosphere, keep it under high pressure, and then use it for many purposes, because carbon is a very important element that can serve a lot of purposes. They capture the carbon and put it under high pressure, and one of them that I've given a picture over here can actually create diamonds out of this carbon that can be captured. So in certain cities like Beijing and Shanghai, they have these huge towers in the middle of the city that takes away the carbon from the atmosphere, and they create diamonds using the carbon when put under high pressure. So these are the ways where how we can use these technologies to lower the emissions and also reduce the emissions of carbon. Now, because everyone likes solar so much, I think what I will do is now delve a little bit on how solar is, what is solar and how it is helping us. So there are three kinds of solar. The number one is the rooftop solar that we put on our roofs. So if you have a roof, then you should tell your parents to get you solar power plants because it is very good for the environment and it is also much cheaper than the electricity that you consume from from non-conventional non-renewable fossil fuels. The second is the ground mount solar. Now these ground mount solars are huge power plants which are basically set up to supply electricity to the government, and government gives you that electricity. But it is not something that you and I we can do sitting at home, but that is create these huge ground mount power plants. And then there's also this thing called floating power plant, floating solar power plant, where they create a platform on a water body through which you can put up these solar power plants so that you can use an unused space of water to create electricity. So very fascinating ways in which solar power plant can be used in order to create electricity. So the most popular ones and my favorite is actually rooftop solar. The reason being that everyone and anyone can have rooftop solar power plant. You just need free space on your roof and it can do the job of supplying electricity to you. Because you can even sew your own clothes if you want to. You can't create your own electricity up until now. You can produce your own electricity for your house also through this mechanism, which is why a rooftop solar power plant is actually one of my favorites. Which ones did you like the most? 1, 2, or 3, please put it on the chat. Ishan says that I found a solar in the rooftop of a nearby flat. Ishan, can you tell us more about it by unmuting yourself?
Yes, sir. Behind my flat there's a canal. On the other side of the canal there's another flat where I can see there's a solar at the top of the rooftop, which also provides some electricity to that flat.
Nice. Ishan, where are you from? Where are you from?
From Birla High School, Mukundapur.
Sorry?
Birla High School, Mukundapur.
No, like which? So you're in Mukundapur?
No, I am not in Mukundapur. I am in Kalikapur, Purvachal Main Road.
Okay. So is that flat that is near your house, is that the only solar you see, or is there more solar around you also?
I can only see only one.
Okay. So you will be surprised in the next 4 to 5 years, you will see rooftop solar plant in all your houses, because apart from it being very good for the environment, it is also very cheap because these solar power plants, once you set them up on your rooftop, they will go on for 25 years. So once you have that kind of solar power plant, everyone is going to put it up. So everyone says rooftop. Great.
Installation cost. If you can brief us about it.
Who is this? Sorry.
Bhuvan.
Okay. Hi, Bhuvan. So installation cost really depends on the size, because everyone's consumption is different. It really depends on the size of the power plant that you require. But to give you an idea, so 1 kilowatt 1 kilowatt power plant can produce as much as 1400 kilowatt hour of units of electricity, and that costs 3,000 rupees. Now, if you want to do some quick maths on how much, if somebody can quickly tell me if 1 kilowatt is costing 40,000 rupees and 1400 units of electricity is getting made in 1 kilowatt, and like per unit of electricity usually costs about 7 rupees. How much money can you save from a solar power plant in 1 year? Can somebody type out the answer on the chat?
And what is the usual cost? Like,
So the usual cost is 7 rupees.
Okay, that is from the solar power plant.
No. A solar power plant doesn't cost any money after you put up the upfront investment of 40,000.
Only installation cost.
Only installation cost, correct. So if 7 rupees is the cost of electricity otherwise, and 1400 units is getting generated by 1 kilowatt rooftop power plant, how much money are you saving in a year? It's simple, 1400 into 7. So that is about 9,800 rupees.
Yes, around 10,000 rupees.
Yes, around 10,000. So how many years does it take to make money? So how many years does it take to make money on 40,000 rupees? 4 years. So everything that because this solar power plant runs for 25 years, every penny that every single paise, every single rupee that you make after the 4th year is pure profit, which is why this solar rooftop is a very good deal for anyone who want to put it up for themselves. Now, I think there's a question. Explain floating. Sure, Jishnu. So what happens in floating solar is that you set up a platform on a. I'll actually show you a few pictures, maybe. Just give me 1 second. Okay, now so as you can see over here, they will basically put up a platform on open waters, and then they will put up solar panels on top of the water, on top of the platform. And what then they do is they put up a anchoring device. So like they put a heavy anchoring device that holds the platform in one place. That is what floating solar does. And what is the only maintenance that you need to do with floating solar or any solar in general is clean it with water. Now, because water has a moderating effect on the solar panels, its efficiency increases in floating solar because it keeps the temperature cooler, as opposed to when it is put on ground or rooftop, the absence of water does not have a moderating effect on the solar panels. So that is what floating solar does. Yeah, that's what floating solar does. Now, because everyone actually loved listening to, I'll just give you some few stories about rooftop solar, because that is what everyone enjoyed talking about. I'll give you some real life examples. I think Ananya, she's raised her hand. Yes, Ananya.
I have a question, that is, if you use that floating solar power plants like that, then does it have any effect on animals who are actually living under the water?
Yes, it
That
does.
particular.
It does. It definitely does. So because like it can affect the entire ecosystem over there. It can because you're going to plow the heavy anchoring on the ground. What happens is that a lot of the like plants on the seabed can get affected.
That means that particular part, does it have any problem with their dissolving oxygen limit or something? Can you explain in that part?
In dissolving oxygen, no. Why would it have a problem in dissolving oxygen?
I mean, generally, what happens that I'm an environmental science student, so that's why I'm asking this. That is, generally in dissolving oxygen case, you see that oxygen has been dissolved in the water from the atmosphere, right? So that part, if the floating solar power plant covers that major part of the water body, then that means that part will be covered completely. So it will have less interaction with the atmosphere part. So that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, that does make sense. So because it is completely covered, then all like the fish under the platform will go away from under the platform, because number one, I think most importantly, light will not penetrate, and because light will not penetrate, it becomes very difficult for life to sustain. So yes, that is one disadvantage of floating solar. Whereas rooftop solar has no disadvantages. It's a no-brainer. Everyone should get it. Even there are some negative of ground mount solar also, which is that oftentimes you have to cut down trees in large parcels of land in order to set up these large ground mount solar power plants. But rooftop solar is, you have all of you. If you go to your house, you go up to your terrace, you will see you will have vacant space on your rooftop. You can easily put up rooftop power plants over there, and it can do wonders for everyone. So I will share some stories about rooftop solar because that is what I work with the most. So, so these are posts that I've made in my social media. And so one of the stories is that because rooftop solar and just solar in general, it has better quality jobs. It is also being able to employ a lot more women as opposed to in coal fields where the work conditions are very bad, and like it can lead to a lot of hazardous diseases also. There are more women being employed in the solar industry, because of which there is a gender diversity also getting done by the renewables. That's story number one. Number two is actually a very fun one. So Disney has created a solar power plant for its theme park, and they have actually shaped it as a Mickey Mouse. So if you go on Google Earth and you type out Mickey Mouse solar power plant, you will find that this is one of the things that has been done in Disneyland. Then there's also there are these companies like Hyundai, which are now selling solar plus battery plus charger all together. Earlier, they used to only sell vehicles, Now if you go to a shop, a Hyundai home shop in the US, you will find solar plus battery and charger. Then there are these really good initiatives started by companies, for organizations like Barefoot College International, where it's called Solar Mamas, where like all the mothers and older women in a village are trained to put up solar power plants in the rooftop. What that does is that it electrifies villages which does not have electricity, and it also, apart from apart from like there are multiple sustainable development goals, and this particular program is helping in creating jobs. So it is tackling the no poverty SDG. Then it is also creating gender equality by employing more women in the solar field. Then it is also creating affordable and clean energy by putting more solar. It is creating decent work and economic growth, reducing inequalities, and making climate action possible. That you must be knowing was Stanford University as well. They have committed that 100% of their entire electricity will come from solar by 2022. So that is the level of solar penetration we are going to see in the world. You must do you know of the Chernobyl disaster, any of you? Anyone knows of the Chernobyl disaster? Nobody knows of Chernobyl disaster?
I've heard about it. It's a nuclear something accident. It was. I currently cannot remember completely, but I've heard about it.
Okay. Yeah. So what happened in Chernobyl was that we used to run a nuclear. Nikhil, do you want to speak?
Yeah, it was a nuclear power plant. It was a nuclear accident where the reactor of a power plant, it kind of like a disaster happened and it caused a lot of problems. Until now, there are people who are affected because of that disaster.
Yes, that is correct. Now, because because of the radiation that came out of the Chernobyl power plant because of the nuclear disaster, what happened was that people who were born even after 30 years of the disaster, they still had defects in their body because of the genetic destruction that was done by that irradiation that came out of the disaster. Now, what they have recently done as a symbol is that they have put up solar power plants in that area where the Chernobyl power plant was. The reason why they've done is because they are trying to show a transition to a much cleaner form of energy that is devoid of any form of human accident. And it also symbolizes hope that we are moving to a much safer world which is powered by solar specifically. There's also there's also these stadiums in all over the world which are run completely on solar. So if we go to, I'll show you a quick show you something quickly on Google Earth. Have you guys used Google Earth? Can you say yes or no on the chat? Okay, great. Everyone's used it. I'll show you on Google Earth if we go to, let's say, Wankhede Stadium. Okay, this one does not have it. Brabourne Stadium has it, sorry. So if we go to Brabourne Stadium in Maharashtra, which is nearby, see, this entire thing is filled with rooftop solar. You see all these panels, these are all solar. Even if we go to, let's say, the Mercedes Benz Stadium in no, that's not the right one. Yeah, it's in the US. Can you please mute?
Sir, actually, I'm unable to view the Google Earth screen. So, sir.
Oh, you can't view the screen?
No, sir.
Oh, okay. That is surprising. Can you view it now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now it's visible.
Okay, great. So
सबसे पहले बात है कि तुम बिना पूछे 3 नंबर कैसे जाता है?
now if you look at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in the US, you will see that this entire thing is filled with solar. All of this is solar panels. Even so before that, I was showing you Brabourne Stadium in India, in Mumbai. That is also filled with solar panels. I'll see. Can you see this entire thing? This gray thing on the top of the roofs. These are all solar panels. So, in fact, there's also a very funny story because solar is now everywhere. Can you see my screen now? I've changed it to the presentation. Or can you still
No,
see
sir.
the...
No, sir. You can see the Google Earth.
Okay, okay. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Now we can see.
So solar is now being given as a wedding gift these days to mark the beginning of a new journey for the bride and the groom. So as you can see, there's a picture of somebody giving a solar panel to the newlywed couple. There's also a coal power plant which was destroyed in the UK, and they put up a solar power plant there instead. So this is the kind of revolution that is happening. Now, even on the other hand, there is these are big power plants, but even for smaller power plants, what is happening is that some mulberry farmers are using solar devices instead of diesel generators to light up the lights during this rearing of mulberry worms. What that does is, because what diesel does is that it emits carbon dioxide, which can destroy the mulberry. And what it can also do is, if little bit of diesel is spilled over the mulberry plants and the worms, then they can instantly kill them. But solar is a clean fuel, so you can use them for the lights in the mulberry farms, and it can never do any damage. The other story is this is Syria. So as you can tell, this is in a war-ravaged country. People used to use diesel generators to power their homes at night because there was no other form of electricity, and it was very expensive getting these diesel generators. So either they would have to use the diesel generators, or they would have to use or have no electricity at all. So what they instead started doing was started using battery and solar panels, and that As you can see over here, all the roofs are filled with solar. And that is what is powering Syria, which is completely ravaged by war. So yeah, with that, we have reached the end of this session. Hope you guys enjoyed it.
Sir, we still have got a couple of time left. So we can open it up for a Q&A session, or if you want to do some quiz with the students, anything if you just want to do.
Sure, we can do a Q&A.
Yeah, okay, sir. So anyone who wants to ask sir anything related to this topic can unmute themselves or can drop down the question in the chat box. So sir can reply to that question.
Which one was your, I would love to know which one was your favorite story out of all the stories that I told you guys. Can you put it on the chat? Please tell me which story out of the ones that I just told you, which was your favorite story? Great. Great. Everyone loved, it seems like everyone loved different stories. Some are saying Syria, some are saying Solar Mama, some are saying gender equality, some are saying mulberry
Excuse me,
farmers.
sir.
Yes.
I had written my question in the chat box.
Which
Okay,
question?
just a second. I think. Can you just repeat your question?
Ma'am, should I say instead?
Can you just type your question once again?
Or you can just ask it.
Yeah, you can just ask it. Even that's
Okay, sir. Sir, which one is mostly used? The rooftop solar, the ground mount, or the floating one, and why?
So floating is the least. Floating is used the least. So then the question arises, which one is used more, rooftop or ground mount? The answer is ground mount. Though we should see, like ideally we should see more of rooftop. Why is ground mount used more than rooftop? The answer is that because of policies. So government what they are doing is they are first asking all the very big companies to invest in solar, and these big companies, it's easiest for them to buy out large pieces of land and set up these solar power plants and sell the electricity to the government. So which is why that is the easiest for big companies to set up. Rooftop solar should be the biggest in the coming future. The only reason why rooftop solar is not as popular as it should be is because lack of awareness. Number two is because everyone, you and I, everyone has got to invest in rooftop solar. So the banks have to give better loans in order for us to invest in it. Then there's also number three would be just the government policies are more favorable towards ground mount solar than they are to rooftop solar.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes.
Sir, India's current capacity of renewable energy is somewhat say 100 to 140 gigawatt.
Correct.
And we have to achieve the net zero emissions by 2070 as mentioned in the COP26 summit. So are we on the right track? And also to increase our capacity, we need we need to be financially strong. So are we financially viable?
That is a very difficult question to answer, but I will try my best. So are we on the track? Yes, we are. So that is good news. That is very good news that we are on the right track. But what is also very important is that nobody has seen 50 years down the line. Nobody can predict the future, even for tomorrow. So 50 years is a big
Exactly.
challenge to predict. But so even in COP26, what a lot of these country leaders, what they have done is that they have based their entire net zero plans on the basis of technologies that have not been even created. And that is an assumption that needs to be made because, of course, in the next 50 years, technologies will be created.
Yes,
so nobody can say for
discounted
sure.
Yes.
Nobody can say for sure, but yes, as of now, things are looking great.
Okay.
India will, things are looking great to reach net zero by 2070, but
we have
whether
taken
that is
initiatives
good
from-
enough for us or not is a disputed question.
Yes.
Okay, sir. Ananya has a question for you. How
Yes.
does climate change will be influenced by carbon neutrality?
Right. So climate change is the main goal of climate change is to keep temperatures within certain levels, right? Now, as we explained, carbon is a big factor of keeping temperature within, like if we have too much carbon in the atmosphere, then too much heat will be trapped within the earth, and which will increase the temperature a lot. So what we need to do is two things. We have to lower the emissions and also reduce the emissions and lower the emissions. So if we are able to use cleaner technology like solar in order to produce our electricity, that automatically reduces the emissions. And then if we plant more trees, then we are able to capture those emissions. So if we are able to capture those carbon emissions which are there in the atmosphere, the temperature will automatically stabilize, and we will be able to reach that net zero target, which will help us in keeping climate change at bay. So that is the answer to your question.
Okay, sir. We'll just take two more questions because we need to wrap up this breakout room and go to the main session. Okay. So there's another question from Sudiksha. She asked that for achieving net zero in India, which renewable source of energy can be used the most in India and why?
Okay, that's a very good question, Sudiksha. So, so there are four main forms of renewable energy that India can use: solar, wind, geothermal, and the hydropower. These are the four main sources, or even nuclear. Now, let me talk about, like, even though hydropower and nuclear still have disadvantages. So the main problem with hydropower is that, let's say, a stream of river is going through its natural course. It has to be put underground, and then it turns those turbines. Now, what that does is that, because you have to basically redirect the flow of water to some other, like to underground, the riverbed in that immediate surrounding, that becomes dry. Now, when a riverbed becomes dry, it affects communities around that riverbed. That is very harmful for the communities over there. So hydropower has that disadvantage. Even nuclear, as we know from the Chernobyl, if small accidents happen, they can lead to major disasters. So the best form of renewable energy that we have is solar and wind. And even among solar, there is rooftop solar, which is the best.
Okay, so we have another question, the last question, and we'll go back to the main session. The question is, okay, how should we deal with the maintenance cost of solar panels? And what if a region gets affected by rain and is in dire need of electricity? How will these panels work then?
Sure. So maintenance of solar panels is very simple. You just need to clean it with water, like how you would clean your window. It is as easy as that. So maintenance on a regular basis is very easy. Surely there, like once in 3 months, once in 6 months, you would have to check the wiring. You will have to check the inverter if everything is doing okay. But that is very like, once in 3 or 6 months. But on a regular basis, you just need to clean the solar panels. Now, what happens when there is rains? Yes. So one big disadvantage with solar in general is that, whenever there is lesser, like at night there is lesser form of, at night or even days when there is rains, you will not like generate a lot of electricity through your solar panels. But that is okay because you can store electricity in your battery. So whenever that electricity is stored, when excess electricity is produced in the morning or on sunny days, that gets stored and you can use it when there is no sun. So that's what it is. And are there any other forms of renewable energy apart from the? Yes, there are quite a few, but these are the most popular ones.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much. So everyone leave your breakout rooms. Not now.
Ma'am, if you don't mind, can we take a quick picture with everyone?
Okay, no, everyone stay here only. So you, sir, you can continue with questions as enough now.
No questions. I just wanted to take a picture with everyone, if that is okay.
Yeah, you can take it.
So if everyone can just, switch on their videos, we would love to, if you enjoyed this session, just switch on your video. I'll take a quick picture. Great. Are you just one question? Are you guys on LinkedIn? Is anyone on LinkedIn? Can you press yes or no in the chat box?
Yes, I am in LinkedIn.
Okay, if you enjoy, I think everyone enjoyed the stories a lot. What I can do for you is I will share the link to my profile, and I keep on posting these stories regularly about solar. So if you follow me, you will constantly get these stories on a regular basis. I have shared this link on my profile on the chat. So if you follow me, you'll get these stories on a regular basis. Great. So I just have to take a picture. Please switch on your camera and I will take the picture. We'll do this for solar. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Smile. Great. Amazing.
Okay, sir, just stay for a bit while. Okay.
Okay.
Here only, along with everyone else, just stay for a while longer till we get
Sure.
further instructions. Please wait for. Anyone can have any conversation with sir if anyone wants to.
So, could you please talk about the different forms of renewable energy? Like, could you please give us some examples? Apart from the ones that you mentioned in the presentation that you
s- other forms of, so I mentioned solar, wind, geothermal.
Yes,
Uh,
sir.
you want me to tell you about more?
Yes, sir. If there are.
Of course, there are lots. There's also like electric vehicles, uh, which uh, which are going to take over. So within 2 years, in 2 to 3 years, we are going to have more electric vehicles are going to be as cheap as petrol vehicles. So you will see a lot of them on the roads. So that is good news. There is also biomass. So biomass basically takes a lot of waste, like bio waste, and then uses it in the power plant in order to create electricity. Um, there are a lot more actually. There's yeah, these are the ones that I can think of at the top of my head.
I think
Nuclear is, yeah.
regarding your Chernobyl, I think there's a movie also on Chernobyl's disaster.
Yes,
There's a
that's
series.
right.
There's a docu-series.
Yes, there is. So that is on the entire. I can actually also share, like, if you want to know more about solar, I will share a few movies with you that you can watch.
Okay,
Not just,
sir, can you text me,
yes.
like just send it to me the movie names, because we need to leave the breakout room in 36 seconds. So
Okay.
just send it
Yeah,
to
I
me.
will
I'll
text.
share it with them.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Enjoyed. Hope everyone enjoyed.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody. Now we have a small video that we would like to play. Thank you for being here with us at the presentation.
Electricity is something that is considered most important to survive in the competitive world today. Most of us spend our days in school, and I think I speak for all that most of us plan our schedule from daybreak. Stringent restriction on usage of electricity does not necessarily refer to restricted usage of electricity in lights and fans that costs us our efficiency at work in terms of time, but rather restricting its wastage, which is to say, rein in our bad habit of leaving the lights and fans running as we leave one room for the next. We can also restrict our usage of air conditioners and microwaves, instead opting for, say, coolers and food that is capable of being stored mostly at room temperature without decay, thus limiting the need to heat it up. But of course, we cannot function without our laptops and computers in the lockdown. But we can opt for indoor and outdoor games instead of video games and mobile games that demand an unsolicited usage of a few extra joules. Yes, energy is measured in joules, and that is all we think of while working out our physics and chemistry problems. But what about the environmental impact of these few extra joules? You see, energy in our current world is vastly dependent on thermal and coal-based power plants. The shift to solar and other renewable energy is still taking place. Of course, the government is facilitating the establishment of a more solar-based energy ecosystem by sponsoring solar lamps and regulating the investment in the renewable sector by those already engaged in the non-renewable ones. The usage of energy in a non-judicial fashion is causing the release of pollutants like carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, oxides of nitrogen and particulate matter. With such tiny particles floating in the atmosphere, the risk extends to those of size 2.5 micrometer. that is 2.5 into 10 to the power of -6 meters. And there is no way we can imagine the size. The smaller the size of the particulate matter, the deeper its reach into our lungs, and the denser the threat. The greenhouse gas effect is also emphasized in the process of indiscriminate use of electricity sourced from non-renewable sources. So, other than switching to LED lights, what can we do? Well, the easiest solution to imagine and the most critical one to actually implement is to achieve a shift into the renewable sector. Using solar lamps, fans, and choosing to use electricity generated by harnessing the wind, the tide, the molasses, and even the ionization that takes place in the salt water that can otherwise be difficult to use without treatment.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much to all of you for joining this session, and especially the speakers for making these presentations. All of you run, all of you run important organizations, and your time is very, very valuable. So thank you so much for taking all this time. As a wrap up, what we could do is just hear from all of you, all the speakers, of final comments, thoughts that you have that you would like to share with the entire group that is here with us today. And also, if there are some thoughts, comments from the participants, we could take a few thoughts, comments. I mean, you may have lots of questions. I'm not sure if we will have time for those questions, but some thoughts, comments are always welcome. So if you can just sort of go around the table with the speakers and hear your thoughts. Arjun Bhai, do you want to go first? Right, my bad. So Piyush, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it was very nice, very interactive session that I had. There were quite a few students who were extremely participative. So it's always great to be talking to a bunch of motivated young chaps, and I'm really looking forward to what we can do. It's a great initiative by SwitchON to just spread more awareness about energy conservation. It's a great day wherein each of us can group together and just figure out how we can make our lives much more meaningful and much more sustainable. So thank you, SwitchON, and I really thank all the participation from the students who joined in.
Great. It's always nice to reach out to and speak to all of these budding young minds. I mean, they know so much more than what we've often known. Chandrasekhar Bhai, Mr. Chandrasekhar Bhatt, if you would like to come in and also share your thoughts with everyone, the entire group.
Thank you, Vinay. I mean, I'm so happy that I got to make it here today. Didn't realize how time flew by. I mean, I was really enjoying talking to the kids, and I was really surprised that I had to, get the conversation to a close so soon. I would really love to keep this conversation moving forward. There were quite a few questions which I was not able to address due to lack of time. So I really invite everybody here to reach out to me. Feel free to reach out to me even after our workshop, and I'll be happy to address your questions. And the more young champions we have joining this mission, the better off we will all be.
Absolutely. I'm so kind of you to make yourself available even after the chat. And we will, of course, hope to keep reaching out to you for more with the wealth of information that you have, and keep sharing back. Ajada, would you like to come in, share your thoughts?
Thank you, Vineta. Thank you, SwitchON team, for this opportunity. Work has always worked together as partner with your organization, and we really thank you for inviting us to be part of this. A lot of the schools that I saw, I've been interacted with Earth Day, and they commemorate Earth Day. So definitely my first message is to ensure that all of you sitting there, do something for Earth Day on April 22nd next year to commemorate this day and expand on the environmental movement, because that's what is required right now to reach out to more people beyond us who are already having some level of awareness, to widen this outreach for environment and sustainability. And my last message would be, all of you do take one pledge, one action point, identify one action point with all the learnings that you have with the different sessions, one action point, and adopt that one action point to pursue it as more towards moving towards a low carbon lifestyle, adopting a more sustainable lifestyle. And trust me, it helps you, as I said, being more adopting sustainability makes you more healthier and happier, and that's what it works. So to adopt these practices and keep doing more of it. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I think it's always, thanks Ajada, and thanks for that message. It's always great to have one point to start with, and of course, there's a lot to follow. Mananda, if you would like to come in, share one of your messages with the entire group.
Thank you so much for organizing this. It was the first time I got to speak with so many young minds. As somebody mentioned, these are young champions who are going to be saving the world. You know, today, even in climate change conferences like COP26, the people who are deliberating on it are 50, 60-year-olds who will make promises on behalf of us, but it's us who are supposed to do the work and save our planet for these young champions. So I think, as I also said during our session, like, this is the closest you get to being a superhero. So from this point onwards, I think everyone should look into the renewable industry and how you can do your bit to save the environment and also make money at the same time. So that's the great part about being in this space. So that's my message to everyone. Keep at it.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for that message. Arjun Bhai, if you can hear me, I can see you back.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah,
So,
hi, Vinay.
Hi, Arjuna. One final message from you to the entire group.
A simple message: join the climate fight. We have 30 years to get to net zero. There are many interesting opportunities available. This is not only the most meaningful place to spend your time and build a career, but also the biggest wealth creation opportunity that you will ever have in your lifetime is to work on climate. This is not a fashion. It is not a fad. It is here to stay. Climate action is here to stay until we get to net zero over the next 30 years at least, and then beyond, to sustain and maintain our lifestyles. So very meaningful and impactful area with a lot of business opportunity for all of us. Great career opportunities, and of course, getting to work with people like Vinay and some of the speakers that you heard today. So I hope you all consider that as a serious career option, and dropped a little link to entertain ourselves with a little rap song that I made on the climate fight as well.
Oh, nice. It's good to know you've created a rap song on that. Fantastic. So thank you so much. And I think what we've tried to do in this session is we've had roughly about 10, we've invited about 10 students from different schools from Bengal, Jharkhand, and mostly they've been about 4 or 5. Some have had, of course, more. But the idea is to take this message that all of you have given to a larger group, to their schools, to their colleges, and it's extremely important, as all of you mentioned. I mean, this is we have to. There's an urgent need for all of us to. Take action around this. So thank you so much. And I think there is some people have been asking if there are links to give feedback. We will surely be getting back to all of the participants with to collect feedback, to also see what you would like to see next and how would you like to participate in such programs and workshops. So we will surely be getting back. And it's a special day today. I mean, energy conservation, it's very, very close to my heart. I've, of course, worked in the energy sector for many years. But one thing that I truly believe in is that energy conservation, it can start with all of us in our homes, in our schools. It's the lowest hanging fruit. There's no better way for us to consider being part of a climate warrior or taking part in the climate action than sort of look at energy conservation. So if there is anyone questions or questions really, any thoughts or comments, questions, I don't think we'll have the time, but any thoughts, comments, otherwise I'm sure you will there will be opportunities to share some of that. But no, I'm seeing in the chat box, I'm seeing there has been it's been a wonderful conversation. People are asking about feedback links. We'll surely get back to you with feedback links, but we can maybe have if anyone wants to also unmute and share something, feel free to do that. Otherwise, we will do a quick round of photography session. I'll request everyone to switch on their cameras and then we can do a quick, that's the best we can do in a virtual setting. So I'll request everyone to switch on your cameras. And once we've done that, it'll be nice to just have a quick photo session as memory's sake. Right, all of you looking lovely. And yeah, it's great to see the messages and comments coming out that it's been a very interesting, meaningful presentation. There were nice presentations. That's all nice to hear from all of you. Thank you so much. It's a great compliment to all our. So on the count of anyone has thoughts or comments, please feel free to ask. But on the count of 5, I'm going to start taking photographs. I'll move from screen to screen and take some photographs. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll put your best smiles on. Lovely, all of you looking great. Few more photographs, and then I think we should be pretty much done. Fantastic. Just keep smiling. Put those. Keep wearing that smile. Yeah, all of you looking. It's lovely to see all of you. These beautiful faces. All of that smile. Just give. I think we should pretty much be done by now. All right, fantastic. Thank you so much. It was. Thank you so much to, especially to all the students. Mostly, I think it's been schools and some college students, of course. Lovely interacting. I'm sure the speakers have had a lovely interaction with all of you. And thank you so much to all the speakers for taking out the time, making the time in the middle of the week or at the start of the week, Tuesday, to do this. Thank you so much, and tada, bye-bye to everyone. Thank you. Take care.